Good morning, guys. This is Team Hard Life Captain Officer Lucha, and I'm here. I'm setting up the YouTube channel. For that, so we make sure that it compares. Okay. So now I know we got volume, so we're good to go on that. Let me fix it over here. Got my coffee. I'm gonna set it. Need to set it somewhere so I don't accidentally hook into it. I'm still working on my kingfish rigs. I've made quite a bit of them, but again, too, I'd rather spend the time right now before the pier opens up and it goes crazy and we start selling the crap out of them. So go from there and get a thumbs up. Let's see there. All right, there's two of y'all on here. What's up? Who's on the channel? Chime in. Let us know. First that phone while I'm over here doing this. I guess we lost whoever was on there. Need to put some double-sided tape to keep that up there. That's what I was trying not to do with the yawn, but hopefully I get it. The coffee will start kicking in and stuff like that. So, good morning, boss.
Hey, can you hear me?
Oh, hold on.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can barely hear you.
Let me see if I. How's
it also
that?
helps if you have the volume up on your phone. That too.
Yeah. How's that? Is that better?
A little bit. But let me try something real quick, because sometimes the YouTube channel it works funny. Like I got to get out of it, get back into it, but it'll pull you right back in. Give me just a second.
Okay.
All right. Test.
Is that better?
Way better. Yes. Now I can actually hear you, because earlier it sounded real faint and stuff like that. Right now it's real early in the morning. Right now we only got like 3 people, and I know one of them's me. I don't know if the other one is you on your computer and stuff like that. But the reason why I was suggesting going through the computer to keep it on the side is because down at the bottom of the screen, you'll see where only a few comments will come through on the channel at a time. But when people start rolling a lot of comments or questions, then we'll miss them. But on the computer, you'll be able to see them.
Okay.
So you can do that.
Yeah, let me pull it up on my computer.
Roger that. And I'm working at the same time, boss. I'm making kingfish leaders because I own Hardline's Bait and Tackle. I don't know if Rachel had a minute to talk to you about it. So what I do. Yeah, I'm an avid fisherman down here. So
okay, me too.
I fish from Galveston to South Padre doing shark tournaments, but they're all catch and release. So I fish on pins quite a bit. Fish in the bays, the piers, the jetties. I held a world record here locally for catch and release of tiger shark from Bob Hall Pier.
Oh,
I
cool.
actually would have set like 12 catch and release records, but at the time I was fishing and really didn't care about, submitting paperwork. So I missed the like 30 days that you have to submit them all and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But so I'm pretty fluent with the areas, and with the help of Rachel, she's been helping us. I wouldn't say dumb it down, but dumb it down so we can understand, because politics is crazy. It's
Oh, it's nuts, especially down here. I'm from Chicago, and it's called the Windy City, not because it's actually windy, but because of how bad the politics are. Basically, they're full of wind, they're full of hot air, is what they always say. And it's like when I come down here, I always tell everybody, no, I'm not actually used to the wind, but I am used to the politics because it's nuts down here. But back to the fishing, I'm a huge fisherman. My first thing I picked up when I moved to Corpus was free diving and spearfishing. So I used to go out and free dive the rigs and spearfish, and I love doing that. I don't get to do it as often anymore, but my favorite thing is to go out and chase wahoo. I love trolling for wahoo. So I've got
nice.
a offshore boat, and then I got a flats boat. I do a lot of fishing down in Baffin. I've probably fished every inch of Baffin, from all the way west all the way east. But I don't get to fish as much anymore. But I love to do it.
Roger that. Well, that's gonna be that's a major plus, because a lot of these guys that are in the politics supposed to be defending us in our area have no idea what the hell they're trying to defend.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing for me. Like, how are you going to tell me how is this going to impact us if you have no idea how it even works to start? So,
Yeah, I mean, I live on the Padre Island. I live on the water. My backyard is boat lifts. I'm out fishing any chance I can, which ultimately isn't very often anymore, given that I've got 3 daughters and I run an engineering consulting firm for a living. So I don't get to fish as much as I used to. When I first started my firm, it was just me. I didn't have any employees, and I would do like one job and would make a bunch of money on the job. And then the next like 3 weeks, I would just go fish. And then I'd be like, oh, I probably need to make money again. And I would take another job. And then eventually I got too much work where I had to hire people. And then it's been downhill ever since. I just have to keep hiring people and keep doing work and fish less. So that's what's been keeping me busy.
okay. So now that we've got a few people on the channel, I was kind of waiting a little bit more. I want to get to about 10 or 15, and then
Sure.
I'll introduce who you are and why we have you on the channel. The reason being because a lot of people are going to kind of miss that if we do it too early. So I'd rather kind of do a little bit of history of who you are and what you've been through, and it's great that to hear that you're a fisherman. So I mean, and actually I was going to get into spear fishing, diving, and stuff like that, but I'll be honest, I'm a shark fisherman. So I've already got a what's the call? Like, I know these sharks got my number.
Yeah,
They've seen
yeah.
enough of
They're gonna
me,
get revenge.
Yeah. I'm kind of in that bracket of, like, I know that one of them's got my number, but at the same time too, it's something like I love being in the water. Sorry, my cat's over there going nuts, trying to get up on the freezer and keep
And
twisting it and stuff like that. Um, but at the same time, I want to get in the water. I want to see how they swim, how they interact, and
yeah.
you know,
My whole thing is I feel like it's the most fair way to fish because they have just as good of a chance to kill me as I do to kill them because I free dive, so I'm holding my breath. And while we wait for people to join, I'll give you a story. The most afraid I've ever been in the water had nothing to do with a shark. I've seen just hundreds of sharks while I was diving, and the most afraid I've ever been, I was diving the 9 Mile rig out of Packery, and it's about 77 feet to the bottom, and that's about the max I can do on one breath. And I'm going down the rig leg to go look for snapper or whatever, looking for fish. And as I get to the bottom, I'm like, did somebody's boat sink on this rig? Because I see this huge thing just sitting on the bottom. It almost looks like a Volkswagen Beetle or a small boat. And anyways, as I get close to this thing to look at what it is, it turns and looks at me. And I'm just like, oh my God, that's a Goliath grouper. I had never seen one in the water before. And I must have pissed it off because it turns and when they get mad, they like they flare out their gills and make this like really deep noise, like a wub wub noise. And it just turns, looks at me, and does that, and I'm like, "This is how I die." And so I don't couldn't tell you how fast I swam up the side of the rig, like hugging the rig leg so the thing couldn't grab me. And it's just casually swimming behind me with its mouth open right behind my fins. And I swear I walked on water back into the boat. Um, that was the last time I dove that day. I was like, I'm not getting back in the water. But I've seen bull sharks, I've seen all sorts of sharks in the water, and usually they just leave you alone. They'll see you and be like, "Hey, I don't want to deal with this," and swim away. But that grouper saw me and was like, "I want a piece of you," and came up.
So let me clarify that because again, too, I don't want people to automatically assume like they've seen the movie Jaws. So millions of sharks were killed because of that movie. Now,
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure the creator's intent wasn't that they set a target on sharks to put that fear out there. They were just creating a horror flick. But
Yep.
the retrospect of it was millions of sharks were caught, many were sent on the brink, extinct, and all of that. So I'm going to clarify my comment for my subscribers here, guys. Like, again, too, I don't know how many times I've swam out there with sharks, not knowing they're there, but they are there, and I've never gotten bit.
Yep.
But again, too, that's just my fear that one of them will remember, hey, I remember you. Like, I got this scar from being caught by you, and hey, let me give you a little nibble or something like that. That's where the fear comes from. Not because thousands and thousands of guys spearfish here, scuba dive and all of that, and they don't ever get, eaten or whatever or bit or anything like that. Now,
Mhm.
again, too, fighting for y'all's catch. That
Yeah.
that's inherent
I've
territory. You're
lost
in
my
their
catch.
backyard. Yeah.
Yeah, I've lost mine a few times. You're like, "Oh, that's a great fish," and then as you're coming up, you see the sharks coming for it, and you're like, "Oh no, tax man's coming."
Right on. All right, guys. So we're at 10 guys, and I want to go ahead and do this. I saw it jump up to like 12 or 15, but it's going to be real hard because I know a lot of my guys work during the day. Normally, the best time is around lunchtime to go because then they use their lunch break and they chime in. But a lot of them will come back to the channel and watch the video. And also, too, if you get a chance, I can send you the video link. And after we end the video, so that way when people comment or whatever, you may be able to chime in and ask the questions because a lot of them will watch the video and then they'll come back with a question to ask you and or
Mhm.
comment or um, show some support and stuff like that too.
Sure.
So real quick, guys, this is Michael Hall who's running for county commissioner here
Yep.
in Corpus Christi, correct?
Precinct 4, which covers Port Aransas, Padre Island, Flower Bluff, everything east of Rodfield Road, everything south of Yorktown, and then all the way out to London.
Right on. So what made you decide or what gave you the push to run for county commissioner?
So this is actually my second time running for a position in town. In
Mhm.
2018, I ran for mayor. I was 27 at the time. I won every major endorsement that was out there: police, fire, sheriffs, realtors, island pack, and ultimately lost in a runoff against Joe McComb. And it was super exciting. And I kind of thought to myself, this is great, but I'm not cut out for politics. I'm not going to do this again. And over the years, I keep getting my property tax assessment, and it's gone up 55% since I moved here in 2014. And it's unreal. People are getting taxed out of their homes, and at the same time, we don't get anything for it, right? It's almost all of our money ends up just being used for debt service because of how mismanaged the budgets have been at a city and county level. And so, my background is engineering and finance, and I can't help but get frustrated when I see a lot of the spending and what's going on. And I kind of waited till the last day, and nobody filed to run for precinct 4 against the incumbent. And I said, all right, well, if nobody's going to do this, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring one more time and see what happens. And so here we are.
Well, I'm super glad you did because that has been a lot of our issue here in the city is like nobody wants to run and put their hat into politics because I'll be honest, I'll never do it just because I don't understand all the verbiage that is used, and for me to sit up there on city council or whatever it is and say, can you better explain that to me? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I just, so that's where I've actually partnered up with Rachel Caballero, and she has done the due diligence and has been for a while. Like, I didn't just jump on because I saw her one time. Like, I watched and watched and watched, and whatever she would post up, I would do my research behind it because I don't just blindly follow somebody. I'm going to do the due diligence. When
Mhm.
obviously I get a chance, sometimes you don't have the time to do that. But for a while now, we've been looking to see who's going to throw their name out there to see if we can show our support and or hey, is it the lesser of the two evils kind of deal? Because at that point, that's kind of where we're at. A lot of people don't want to get involved. But again, too, hearing your background in the fishing, and I want to know more. Like, I was doing some reading on your page, and you were talking about, being as transparent with the community as possible. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
No, I mean, so my thing is I'm not a politician by any means. You can get on Facebook and see all my comments and how I actually go out and interact with people. And I say it as it is. I know I'm not going to win everybody's votes, and that's okay. What I like to tell people, and one of my favorite things about living in the United States is that I could be on a boat fishing with you for 6 hours, and we could argue politics between a Republican and a Democrat or a Libertarian or whatever, and at the end of the day, we're still gonna go eat dinner and drink a beer together because before being a Republican or a Democrat, you're an American. And
Yeah.
that's what this country used to be like. And politics has gotten so polarized that I think people kind of lose sight of that. And I'm hoping to get back into county politics so that I can kind of bring that back to the table. Like, we all live in Oasis County and Corpus together. We need to work together to be able to tackle all of the problems that we have. And the biggest part of that is transparency and where your money is going and ensuring that what we're spending money on makes sense. I mean, I'm sure you saw the votes recently about how they're voting on the pool to go into where the Hillcrest neighborhood was. I mean, what horrible timing. Or they opened the pool on the south side at the start of this drought a couple years ago. And at the same time, that's when they turned the water feature downtown back on. They finally got the pumps fixed right in the middle of the drought and turned it back on. It's stuff like that. Like, guys, why are we spending our money on stuff like this when we need to fix the issues at hand first so that we actually have money to spend on the things that we need, not the things that we want? Um, and that's really what I'm trying to come in and do is be fiscally conservative, actually manage the budget appropriately. And government used to be about just providing core infrastructure requirements. So, utilities, piping, roads, emergency services, things like that. And now we have government that wants to open event centers and manage businesses for us. And it's like, wait a second, that's what we got private industry for, guys. Why do we need the government stepping in and trying to pretend they're a business they're not? I want them to stay out of my business. Um, and that's what I'm trying to bring back into office.
That you hit on a bunch of things that are near and dear to all of our hearts here as taxpayers. The rising amount of taxes and the speed at which it's doing doesn't even equate to the amount of growth that the city has had. Like, we're
We've had
still
no
dealing
growth.
with
That's the
what was
thing.
it?
It's like the taxes have gone up so much and the city's not grown. I mean, the city was basically this size when I moved here. Um, and that's a massive issue because you need growth because growth is what funds industry. New houses get built. And when new houses get built, people buy stuff to put in them. They move here to fill them and they pay more taxes. And so you end up with a larger tax base, which allows you individually to have a lower tax rate. Because if I can tax more people, I need fewer dollars from the individual because I'm getting more dollars as a whole because the pie got bigger. The issue we have here is that the pie stayed the same size and they just keep trying to get blood out of a stone with their tax dollars. It's hit a point like I own a very successful engineering consulting firm, and my wife works and is very, very successful. And I look at my tax bill and I'm like, I don't know if I can afford to live here. And then I think about what is it like for the people that have kids in school or the single moms that work and try and make a living, and all of a sudden they can't pay their taxes. Like, yeah, it's a deal for me and it's a struggle for me, but I can't imagine what it's like for people that are living paycheck to paycheck that could lose their house because their taxes are going up.
That was a major. I'm trying to look for the right word, but that was a major starting point for why I got into politics, and a lot of it had to do with the desal plant that they were trying to introduce into the inner harbor. Which I was like, okay, I heard desal, and well, okay, yeah, we need water and this and that, but as you start scratching away the surface and start, clearing the muck and debris, because when they drop something like that, it creates all this dust. And if you stand back away from it, all you hear is desal plant. We need water. Okay, cool. That sounds good. But when the dust starts to settle and you actually start looking at the fine print, it's not what the city needs. I mean, we're catering to industry so much that they're not helping us as good community partners. And when you have a community partner, the main thing you hit on a little while ago was that when more businesses are growing because the homes and everything they have to move into and want to bring their businesses here, it's going to make us grow. More people, more population, and everything gets kind of, and you're right that the taxes will get spread out evenly amongst more people instead of 10,000 people, because we've got it. They're trying to do it out of 100 people, and
Mm.
they keep putting it back on, well, industry, industry, industry. Well, industry is only at what, 7% of our workforce that's here in Corpus Christi. And
I don't know what the actual number is. I'd have to look it up. But I mean, industry is the backbone of Corpus. I mean, it's where all of the revenue that comes into the city, not tax revenue. Tax revenue comes from the home values and the people that work here, but those people make their money because there's industry here. Corpus was basically a fishing town until industry came. The reason we have water issues here actually is because we didn't have water utilities, and when they developed Lake Corpus Christi, the way they were able to finance it was because the refineries said, "Hey, we'll help you finance putting this lake in, so that we'll have a water source." So it was because that's why we have this really unique situation where the city provides municipal water and industrial water through the same system. They're almost exclusively separate systems outside of Corpus Christi.
okay, so I'm gonna ask a little more on that because that is something that we've been, I fished Lake Corpus Christi as a kid, all the way up until a few years ago. I literally stopped fishing it because you got to travel now 200 yards just to get to the water,
Yeah.
and it's not the same anymore. You can't enjoy your favorite little spot that you used to go to. Now, from week to week, what used to be your favorite spot or a new fishing hole is no longer there.
Yeah.
What has changed so dramatically in the last 5 years? I would
So
say 5 years. It has just dramatically changed to the point that we don't have a lake anymore.
So the issue is that it's kind of one of those straw that broke the camel's back problems. Like, water has been an issue for a long time, but what it's been is that our water source has been filling back up faster than the rate at which we're consuming, and it's been very close, right? So as long as you're marginally positive, you're not going to run out of water, right? You could generate one more gallon a day than you use, and you're going to be totally fine.
Right.
But what happened is we brought in another plant, gave them 12 million gallons a day, and all of a sudden we went from marginally positive to negative, and then it wasn't addressed. And so years and years and years of being negative, you start draining the water that you had, and then all of a sudden you run into a drought, which we run through droughts all the time down here, and you run into the problem that we have today. And basically what it was is the straw that broke the camel's back. We finally brought in one too many plants without looking at our water utilization and figuring out how we need to be adding water instead of taking water out. And it's something that the city's now trying to address that they should have been addressing a long time ago. Some of the positives on that have been the deals with Valero and Flint Hills Resources recently, where they're going to take reclaimed water from the wastewater system and use that as cooling water so that they don't have to be pulling drinking water and using it as cooling water in the plants. So that'll actually have a really big impact on reducing the water usage locally. So they're taking the right steps now. The issue is that they should have taken these steps before it was a problem. They let and it's the same issue we have with our debt locally. Um, Basically, what happened is they waited until it became such a severe problem to act. And now we're in the situation we're in today. If you look at our debt, it's actually the same way. A third of your taxes goes to debt service, which is basically when the city does a project, they go out and they get a bond. Well, they don't get free money. There's interest on that money that they got, and they have to pay back that money plus the interest, right? And so there's debt service just like a mortgage. And so the city now takes a third of your tax dollars and puts them into debt service. And we're at the point with the city and the county and the water issues that our bond rating and our debt to income ratio is so high. Well, the debt to income ratio is so high and the bond rating is so low that we're at a point where we may transition into being junk bond status, which means you lose your AAA rating. And when that happens, the city dies. Right, you'll never be able to get bond funding, or the interest rates will be so high that the tax basis won't be able to keep up with the amount of money needed to continue to fund the bonds.
And that's a very important topic right there because I have actually turned down getting multiple loans because they were asking for like 33% interest, 15% interest. And if
Yeah.
you ever get a loan and you're over 10%, there's got to be some qualifying thing that will interest you that ends up saving you money in the long run. But if it's not, then I literally have to turn down these loans because know that by the time I repay it all, I have wasted so much money of my ability to actually grow a business, you know, with the amount of money that was borrowed in comparison to the amount of interest that I'm going to end up paying in the long run. It's going to take me that much longer to get out of the hole. With that being said, I have seen where the city council or the city has backed off and gave these industries tremendous discounts on the amount of taxes that they are paying. The What they should have paid was $2.5 billion in taxes, and instead they settled for 995. I think it was 995 million. So that is
So
where I
a lot of that has to do with the assessed value of the refineries. So think about a refinery, right? Or I guess think about a house. When you go and you sell a house, you generally have an idea of what that home is worth, right? It's going to be worth 200 grand or 300 grand because there's hundreds of comparables that you can go look at and get an idea of what what the property value is, right? The issue with
Mhm.
a refinery is that you look at it and a refinery doesn't just hop on the market for sale and give you an appraisal value. And so that the problem is if I went and I wanted to sell a refinery, who knows what it would be worth. And so that's where all the fighting happens between the city and the county and the plants is what is the actual valuation? It's just like on my house, I go fight my valuation every year. The refineries do the same thing that me and you do. They go and fight the valuation of their home. In this case, it's their plant. And so that's where you're seeing, oh, they owed this many billions in taxes when in reality they didn't. It's just the county and city came in and said you're worth a gajillion dollars when they're not.
So that's actually a double-edged sword there because one, we all fight the taxes because we all don't want to pay them.
Yep.
However, when you go to sell that property, you're going to evaluate it at the what they were trying to get you for. So
Yep.
it's a double-edged sword there, and if they're not willing to understand that, yes, you're right. You can't sit there and say, well, this plant come up for sale like a house can, and it's hard to evaluate it that way. However, what you can look at too is that these plants every year are finding ways to be more successful and producing the amount of product they're trying to put out, because if they don't, then they end up losing money every single year. Now, these are multi-billion-dollar operations that are making millions per day, per hour. I mean, it's a crazy amount of money that they are making. And granted, we're all in it to make money, whether we work, whether we own our own business, whether we are working for some other business. Like, we're trying to do our best to help them be successful. But at the same time, too, if you're sitting there pulling all this money in and not helping out the community at which you're pulling all this money from, it's a bad relationship.
Yeah, and I mean, I would look at it two ways where they really help. One, look at the amount of donations that come out of the refineries. They donate hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars
Hold
a
on real
year.
quick. Hold on real quick, Wilson. Take
Yeah.
that to him. Tell him I went over there multiple times and nobody was there to receive it. Sorry. Okay, go ahead, boss. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. I mean, what I was saying is you can look at it a couple ways. One, the refineries donate hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars a year to local charities. I mean, go look at like United Way or Ronald McDonald House and the amount of money that gets donated. One, from the refineries themselves, but then two, from all the businesses that are supported by the refineries. Think about like Bay Contracting, right? Is a multi-billion-dollar construction company that was founded and started in Corpus because the refineries are here, and they donate millions of dollars a year to charity. And H&S and all these other fabrication companies locally that do that. So on one hand, yes, they're making a lot of money, but the sheer volume of money they give back, they don't just go advertise it, right? A lot of it gets advertised, but you really have to go dig and see where all the money comes from. And then two, if you look at the average
Hold
salary
on,
of
my
somebody,
manager left his phone. Hold on. Sorry about that, boss. Shut off your phone. All right. Sorry about that, boss. I was hearing you and hearing them, and it was it was
nah, you're
zeroing me
fine.
out. So
That then the second half of that is look at all the people they employ and the pay that those people make, and then all those people pay taxes on their income. I mean, we don't have a state income tax, but they use that money to go buy a car and pay sales tax. They use it to buy a home and pay property tax. Um, so them
that
existing is already generating a massive amount of a local tax base beyond just the assessed value of the property.
so there was a few things on there that okay. One, companies make donations to nonprofits to help them offset the cost of taxes they would pay to the federal government. That's their discount. So just because the money's coming back to us doesn't mean that it's because those nonprofits can still get the money from the federal government. So I consider that a null and void because I donate as a small business here to nonprofits every day of the week. You know what I mean? And more sometimes than others. Sometimes I can only do so much because obviously I'm a small business. I'm not a nowhere near a multi-million dollar operation. I want to be. I mean, that's the goal to get into business is to make money and be successful doing it. But the economy is what it is now. But when I can totally agree with you on the point of that decades ago, industry was the moneymaker for the city. However, as we started getting into politics and following along as to what is being done with the industry and our local city, it's not what it used to be decades ago. The workforce here, and you can check my numbers and stuff like that if you want. This is something that I finally learned throughout the years. Like I was in your same mindset. Well, industry does this, industry does it. Like I was so strong for industry, but now that I've learned, the amount of of taxes that they're not paying, and when those taxes aren't paid, how it affects the community. the amount of workforce that is actually here in comparison to the workforce that the city already has between hotels, stores, restaurants, small businesses, Walmart, Kmart, like all these deals, the actual percentage of the amount of people they have is minute compared to what it used to be. I totally agree with you. Decades ago, everything was industry. It was a
Well,
fishing
I think
community,
you also
and
you have to look at not the direct employees, but also the indirect. I mean, there's tens of thousands of employees in Corpus that exist here to support the refineries that aren't directly employed by them. And then secondly, you can't compare somebody who works at Walmart for minimum wage to a high school graduate operator making $300,000 a year being an operator at a refinery. Yeah, that's the same number of jobs, but the one guy is the equivalent of 40 staff at a Walmart. You know what I mean? Uh, so when you're looking at the actual cash injection into the local economy, it's coming not from the people working at Walmart. It's coming from the guy making $300,000 as an operator with a high school diploma.
well, I'm definitely gonna have to do some more homework on that because I want to see it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is
I mean,
this
I'm
is
I'm
where
very I'm very pro industry. I mean, I think like I'm a huge fisherman and I love fishing and I think that both can live here and both things can happen. My thing is that if industry was not here, Corpus would not be the size it is today. It would be like Port Mansfield. Port Mansfield is a small fishing town. And that's what Corpus would be if you didn't have 17 refineries on a ship channel with the largest ship channel in the country by gross tonnage.
but again too, we don't want to become a Bayside either where we have too much industry and then
Mhm.
we have a dead city.
No, absolutely. I agree
Which
entirely. I agree entirely. I think that doing growth the correct way is very important, right? I think we need desalination at some point. We need a water source that is guaranteed and we know we will have so that we can grow appropriately. We need to make sure that we put it in the right place. And we need to make sure that the impact that it has on the local environment is minimized so that we don't kill the other most important thing in Corpus, which is the fact that we are a mecca for fishing and duck hunting. You don't want to come, we're one of what I think it's 4 hypersalinic bays in the world. Like
yes,
you don't want to screw up the lower Laguna Madre. It's literally it's a wonder of the world. And so it's important to have industrial growth so that we have the money and finances to allow the city to grow, but we can't allow that to happen in a way that stops the environment from existing the way that it currently is because that's what makes Corpus so unique. I mean, the whole reason I live here is because of Padre Island. If Corpus didn't have Padre Island, I would have never moved here.
so on top of that note too, but at the same time, and you nailed on it earlier, the amount of taxes that would come out for a desal plant that is totally funded by the taxpayers
Yeah, that's
would be
ridiculous. The
would
way yeah, it that I agree. $1.2 billion for the desal plant was ridiculous.
mm, well, that and the area that they want to put it in. I mean, they're already so the Hillcrest neighborhood is so impacted, and this is also going to boil down to that pool that they or the splash pad that they're trying to put in, which was part of the agreement because of the harbor bridge that was put in there. It moved one of their pools that was there, and so they agreed to remake another one years down the road and stuff like that. And I don't know the exact fine print of when it had to be done or how it was supposed to be done and or the price tag that was agreed upon at that time. It's just this is all part of I see it as 3 ways on that one. One, yes, it's great that they're finally investing back into the Hillcrest
Mhm.
community. I mean, that has been a community that's been destroyed by industry. There's no other way to say it. It has been destroyed by industry, not I wouldn't say intentionally, because I don't know. I haven't done the due diligence of seeing how everything worked out in that fact of how industry moved into the area and stuff like that. But I have seen and have followed along where, the amount of stuff that they went through as kids in school, the uh, hospital visits and all the other stuff that any industry anywhere does put off some type of uh, health risks whether it be electronic health risks, whether it be dust, chemicals in the water, in the soil, and stuff like that. So, growing, yes, we need industry. I'm also pro industry too, but pro industry in the right way that they can survive and we can survive as equal partners in the growth. Because again,
Mhm.
industry can be here, but if the city ain't here to fund it, they ain't gonna have no workers. It's a two-sided coin. They need us, we need them, but it's got to be done properly to where they're not poisoning their community members to have workers for them to make money. And
Sure.
so with the desal plant, putting it in an inner harbor that already has numerous of uh, spills, chemical spills, stuff like that. Yet you want to suck that water out and claim that it's going to be okay for the people to drink, and then insert it into our drink. I don't. I may not have all the mental understanding of it all and stuff like that, but I just feel that it's going to be a horrible risk because any filter in the world, if there's too much contamination, it ends up getting clogged up quickly. So I have reserves on that as to why they're doing it right there in an area that's already so polluted. It's crazy. Why not go like into the Gulf and pipe it
So
in like they do the oil?
the reason is because having the plant right next to all the industrial facilities reduces the transportation costs. You don't have to build new pipeline to push the water to all the plants. So that's probably why they want to put it there, just as a cost reduction measure. Now, if it's still $1.2 billion by putting it there, then it's not going to happen. Um, I think Harbor Island's probably a pretty good spot for one because the issue you have here is that you build this plant and it gets us the water we need now, but what about 20 years from now? You're not going to be able to expand that plant because you don't have space. Harbor Island, at least, you can build, 50 MGD plant today and have space to go to 100 or 200 or whatever you want because it has the availability of land. What got us in this mess in the first place is not doing enough forward thinking for the long term. And I think that's something that I'm trying to get back into office and do is to look at what's our budget, how do we reduce our budget now so that we can reduce our debt so that in the future, if we need to bring on debt for a large infrastructure project, we have the debt capacity to do so instead of wasting our current funds accruing debt for projects we don't need, like Briscoe King Pavilion, for example.
So with that being said, with the industry, that was the main thing too. The Inner Harbor desal plant was going to produce 30 million gallons. 25 million gallons of that was already pre-sold to industry,
Hmm.
yet making the community taxpayer pay for all of this water that wasn't even going to help out any of our drought conditions. Because 5 million gallons for the city is not, it's not going to be worth it at the amount of taxpayer costs and stuff like that. It would have literally pushed too many people out of their homes, and a lot of people wouldn't have been able to pay because it's not just water; it's the light bill and then the regular taxes. So they would have been hit three different ways to pay for that. And by putting it on the Harbor Island, like you said, it allows it to grow, but it's also in an area that is far away from communities to not add more industrial pollution to the surrounding areas and stuff like
Hmm.
that. Um, what are your thoughts on the release of the brine and or sludge? Because that was one of the things that we read in the permit that they were going to be allowed in the inner harbor, not on the harbor island. That they were going to be allowed 3 million gallons of sludge to be released back into the inner harbor on with their permit kind of deal. So
I mean, honestly, I'm not a hydrologist. I really don't know enough about it or have enough of the facts to be able to tell you one way or the other. The one thing you'll see about my campaign in when I talk about any topic is I will provide sources and citations for everything that I do. In this case, I agree with you. If you look at the fact that we're putting something to process water and then send out the contaminants back into such a small area on the surface, it looks like a terrible idea. What I can't tell you yes or no on right now, because I haven't actually looked at the math behind it, is whether or not it is actually a bad or good idea. I mean, just logically, it makes sense to put the salt and brine back into an area that is much larger so that it can diffuse better. However, maybe the bay and the ship channel area is large enough relative to the brine being produced that it would be fine. I couldn't tell you today whether or not that's true.
Okay, so I can tell you this because I've fished here all my life. I've bought bay from the actual shrimp boats down there, and a lot of the stuff, the knowledge that I've learned is actually from the shrimp boat captains there because they've been in the fight because it's their livelihood. If that again to that one more needle stacked on that stack of straw is going to make it blow over. So decades ago, they had to release fresh water out of the Nueces River into
Mhm.
the ship channel and to the Bay of Corpus Christi because the salinity was so high that it was actually cooking the sea life. The crabs were coming in with their shells half eaten, shrimp populations plummeted, and everything else. So there's a lot of history that's already put in play, and that's where a lot of my battle comes from. But the also too the false narrative of that it's uh, drought proof is also a false deal, and I'm going to explain why. You know that we've had red tide in our bays, and also know that we've had brown tide in our bays. The brown tide normally happens during the summertime when the water heats up enough because there's not enough
Oxygen.
circulation in the area, so it creates a huge dead zone. So if you've ever had a water spill in your yard where a pipe bursts, you can see where it comes out all murky and then it starts coming out clean because it has cleared a pathway. But all that debris and stuff like that goes to the areas where there is no circulation. So that was a huge thing for me. And even when I went to uh, they had their TCEQ meeting downtown, and when I brought that to their attention, it literally they were like deer in the headlights. Like they looked at each other like they had no idea what I was talking about. And as a fisherman here locally, this is stuff that if you're going to be doing a business or bringing in an industry that's going to do this, this should be every single topic that you cover because again, you know and I know, and you nailed on it. The Baffin Bay it's right on that level of being so hypersaline that it could take, maybe 10,000 gallons of hypersaline water to hit that area to destroy it. And so the Harbor Island, I have seen where they moved it from the inner portion of that to the actual island itself, but to release the brine, only I think they were talking about like a mile offshore, and I was like, no, that's not good too, because the history with the way the curvature of Texas is and Padre Island National Seashore, everything that happens up north comes down south, and we that's why we always get debris after hurricanes from Florida, from Louisiana, from all those areas. Like we've had homes land on our beach, and they weren't
Mhm.
from our area; they were from those other areas. However,
You get the
a few
outflow of the
years ago,
Mississippi comes this way.
what was that?
You get the outflow from the Mississippi. So like when there's a hurricane that hits New Orleans, a month later we have all the logs offshore and it's great mahi fishing.
Yes, mahi kings. I mean, the fishing is phenomenal, but again, everything would end up on our beaches. So when they had oil spills or platforms, all that oil came to our beaches. However, a few years ago, when that hurricane came through, it changed up the Gulf Stream. So now all that Mississippi water is actually going towards Florida. So now they're having the red tides, and we haven't had it in years, which has been a blessing because we finally get to enjoy our full 365 days a year fishing if you're willing to go out there and put up with the weather. Um, I just wanted to kind of share that because I know you're battling for our area and taking in industry at the same time. I just wanted to give you a little insight of the stuff we did, and I know you're going to
Sure.
do your due diligence on it. Like I said, I went through and I was reading everything that you're posting up, and it's a breath of fresh air to finally talk to somebody that has a city in mind. Yes, we
Yeah.
need industry. Industry was 95% of my clientele, and so when they shut down the pipeline, it shut down my business. So I totally understand, and it's not. that I'm hard headed about it, but I'm also want to be a good community partner, so that way we grow and our community grows at the same time. Um, I know we're coming up on an hour. I don't know what your time frame is. I mean, I'm good to keep
I'm,
going.
I've got probably another 10 minutes or so till I got to bounce. I have a work call coming up here that I'm gonna have to jump off for.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the last 10 minutes to kind of talk to our community here as to why you want them to vote for you. I already know why I would want to vote for you because we already have a cabal in there and we need
Yeah.
fresh people who are willing to fight for our community.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, no, I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on. So it's the Republican primary, right? So there's two of us, me and Brent Chesney. There's no Democrat that runs for this seat. So it's going to be me or Brent. And we're in early voting right now. It's February 17th through the 27th. Then election day is March 3rd. And why I think you should vote for me is there's a ton of reasons, but really when you look at it, for the last decade, have you been happy with what the county has done or the city has done? And if you have been, then keep voting for the same people. If you're tired of what's been happening in this city, then maybe it's time to vote for new people. The guy I'm running against has been the precinct 4 county commissioner for 11 years. So there's no excuse on his side of why things are the way they are, other than the factor that they're the way they are because he's the one in office. And so if you don't like that, then vote for somebody new. And this is your first opportunity to do that because he's never had somebody run against him. He's been uncontested for the last 2 elections. And so this is your opportunity to get somebody else in. Now, why I think I'm a good fit for that is one, I'm not a politician, I'm an engineer. Um, I only did this because nobody else chose to do it. And I'm very thankful to be in a position where I could take something like this on. By trade, I'm a licensed professional engineer. I have a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering and a master's degree in electrical engineering. And I run a multi-million-dollar engineering consulting firm. I have offices in 3 states, and I founded the company myself when I was in my 20s. Um, and the coolest part about it is I do large capital infrastructure projects for a living. The even better part about it is I don't do any projects with the county or city. So I have 0 conflicts of interest. So I really am here to try and make this a better place for everybody. I have 3 daughters, and they're 5 months old, 5 years old, and 7 years old. And I want them to want to stay in Corpus Christi when they grow up because if they move away, I know I'm moving away because my wife makes the decisions. And she's not going to be more than 10 minutes away from wherever our girls end up. And so my whole thing is I want to make Nueces County a place where people are proud to be from here. They're excited to be from here and they want to stay here. And that starts with having the money to do projects that are important. And that starts with being fiscally conservative enough to make sure the county's only spending their money on the things that are important so that businesses want to come here. Because if you have a low tax rate, and you have all sorts of incentives for businesses to come, they will. That will grow your tax basis, and we get to enjoy all of those amenities without paying more in taxes. Right now, we have the opposite problem. The county and the city spends money like it's coming out of thin air and not coming out of your hard-earned pocket. Um, and we need to stop that. We got to stop going after bonds for maintenance and operations. You really shouldn't be using debt service to pay for maintenance projects. It's a terrible idea, and it ends up becoming a massive ballooning debt problem. And these are things that I understand as a private business owner. And I grew up in finance. My dad was a financial consultant and was very successful at it. And those are the ideas that I'm going to bring to office, and hopefully I'll be able to get in and reduce the county's spend, make sure we're only putting money into the right projects, and ultimately lower your tax basis so that you have more money in your pocket to go spend. And when you have more money in your pocket to go spend, that grows the economy, which then grows the amount of taxes the county makes. So it's a win-win for everybody. And I think it's just time that we had somebody new in and a breath of fresh air to actually get real change down here.
well, you have me excited, boss. Seriously, and that was at the beginning of when we started talking about trying to get people in there. That was always, well, who do we vote for, and who? I
Mhm.
mean, like who? And so right now, like you said, if you weren't in there, then we would be stuck with Brent again.
Yeah, and I
And
could give you
so
a million reasons to not vote for the guy. I mean, but between the lawsuits and the stuff he's done in office on camera, I mean, yeah, I've spoke enough about that on Facebook, and if you want to see, you can go check it out. But at the end of the day, you got to have positive reasons to vote for the other person as well. And for me, I'm an educated, licensed professional engineer. I'm a private business owner, small business owner in Corpus Christi. I've got 3 daughters here in school here, and I plan to be here for the rest of my life. And I share the same hobbies and values that everybody else in here does. My biggest hobby is fishing, and then basketball, and then scotch and cigars. So
like that,
yeah,
like that.
I'm
So
here to enjoy the same things that you guys enjoy, and I just want this to be a place that I can have my family for the rest of my life.
so real quick, what are the platforms that people can go in and check you out and see what you're about and stuff like that? Because um, that I know will help. Because like I said, for
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
Rachel sent me
So
over, and then I started able to find your Facebook and go from there and stuff like that. Because honestly, I've seen your placard out there, but I didn't know nothing about you. And for me, a picture doesn't do it anymore. It used to be like, oh, that dude looks cool, or
yeah,
not anymore. We've got to think outside the box of looking at these pictures that are posted up along the highway, guys, and do your due diligence. Research the people you want to vote for, and also too, like you said, take in consideration of what's happening now.
yeah.
Are you
So
happy of where we're at?
if you want
Are
to
you
learn
not
more
happy?
about me, my website is mh4cc.com or Michael Hall for county commissioner.com. They both go to the same place. Um, you can go on my Facebook, just Michael Hall for Nueces County Commissioner. Or you can just go on my personal Facebook, Michael Hall. It should come up. Um, Beyond that, you can go on my LinkedIn as well. Same thing, Michael Hall, and it'll pop up. I own engineering design services, so you can look at it that way. Or if you want to learn more about me, my cell phone number is 847-347-8299. Just shoot me a text or call me.
All right. So
Uh,
real quick, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually well, I was gonna share the link to your channel there, but it actually cut off a little bit of it. I don't know if you can see the letters that aren't bright.
mhm.
So it wouldn't let me do it. But what I can do is after the video ends and I go into the description, I can share the links so people can go check you out, and it'll be in the description, guys. I was trying to do it now, but it won't let me do it. Yeah, allergies are kicking. I'm starting to get scratchiness in my throat. Give me a second.
Yeah.
All right, so sorry about that. But yes, definitely check out Michael Hall on his Facebook. And I'm going to post the link to I believe it's your website is the
Yeah.
link that I
And
have.
I'll text it to you so you have it.
Roger that. So again, guys, like I said, if you're not happy the way things are here in the city, you got to get out. You got to vote. Like we're
Yeah.
not saying you must vote for him. We're saying do the due diligence and take in consideration everything that's happened, everything that's going on. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you want change? If you want change, you got to change. Get up, go vote. It only takes a few minutes. Literally,
Yep.
I leave here several times I'm live, and I'm like, all right, we got to go. And I even pay my guys. I leave them on the clock. Go vote. Like I'm not telling them how to vote. I'm just putting the information out there so we can all make a great choice to better our city, better our living, and hopefully we can all continue to grow up here and keep our kids here. Because you nailed it right there. Keeping the kids, not trying to hold them back, but just offering them a great place to
Hmm.
choose to spend the rest of their lives in instead of
Yep.
going to other cities because they're tired of the way it is here. The taxes, the growth, everything gets taken into play, guys. So, Michael Hall, thank you very much for taking the time to meet with us here and for the open communication. I definitely, I'd like to get more knowledge if you're open to sharing more and stuff like that. Because again,
Yeah.
too,
Always.
I don't want to be that person that's just stuck on one way. I'm open to all kinds of. I want to learn something new every day. Because if I don't, then I feel I've wasted that day. So I think you've offered a lot of insight knowledge and stuff like that. And thank you very much for coming in.
No, thanks. I appreciate it. And, love being on the show. I'll try and get on again if I can. And it's early voting right now, everybody. So please, if you've got a spare few minutes, go out and vote, Democrat, Republican, whatever. I'm running in the Republican primary. I'd love for you to vote in the Republican primary and vote for me, especially if you live in precinct 4. But ultimately, just get out there and vote. Turnout is really important, and the local politics has more impact on your life than anything at the national level. So this is probably the most important thing you can do with your time. So thanks again for having me, and look forward to the next time we chat.
Roger that, boss. Well, you have a blessed day and good luck, and I hope you win. I really do, because
Thanks.
I'm tired of what's been going on, big time. So,
I appreciate it. Take care. Bye.
later, boss. All right, guys. So that was a very interesting conversation there, and it's great to hear more because, again, too, when we're dealing with a lot of the guys here locally, we don't get a lot of the information. And he was given a lot of inside information because, he's on that side of the house, which is great. We need to be able to hear these things and how they interact with us, and I'm not going to be, like I said, I've heard and I've seen the receipts. You know what I mean? I've seen where all the paperwork comes in, but again, too, I've only seen what has been showed to me. To be able to find out all that information, we need people to go to be able to do the homework, pull it out so we can check it out and stuff like that. And from what I understand, what I've read so far on his Facebook and on his platforms is that's what he wants is transparency with the city council and the community. So that's important, guys. That's really important. So go out and vote. Right now, it's early voting, and like I said, I'm definitely not voting for Brent because I've already seen where it all goes. Like, 11 years of being there, and we're not happy the way things are going. And so the only way to get any true change is to go out and vote, guys. So take your time. Like I said, it took me 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes to get there, about 5 minutes to be in line to vote and to get back to my shop. So I could have handled it all probably in a break. So again, guys, y'all have a great day. I don't know if I'll be live later on this afternoon, but I do have another interview coming up. I'm just waiting on confirmation of a time limit or a time that we're going to schedule this in. So got another one coming. And again, too, yes, we are a fishing channel, but again, to getting into politics and sharing the knowledge that is important to saving our way of life, which is fishing. I don't want to be in counseling. I don't want to have to be taking pills to deal with what I got when I got free Mother Nature, free fishing, free. What I mean, yes, it costs money to go fishing. It costs money, but in reality, that's more healthy to my life than it is, seeing counselors and seeing all this and seeing all of that when I can actually go out and have God heal me. So, all right, guys, y'all have a blessed day. I'll talk to y'all later and we'll keep it rocking. Later, guys.